A great greetings to all of you students. We are going to discuss the new topic, that is photosynthesis, the light reactions. Photosynthesis is one of the most important reaction in the universe because planet Earth exists as a living planet, or different organisms survive over the earth only due to this reaction. As photosynthesis is performed by plants, but directly or indirectly we all depends on this reaction, because the herbivores directly eats the plant, which those plants survive only by photosynthesis, and the carnivores depends over the herbivore, because the herbivore survive only due to the plants. So plants are very important for the existence of this planet Earth, and the importance of plant is due to only the reaction photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means formation. So with the help of light, something is forming something that is very important for the world, for the universe, for the existence of all organism. That something is the form of carbohydrate, glucose or sucrose. So photosynthesis is one of the reaction performed by plants, especially green plants, in which plants converts electrical or light energy into chemical energy. That chemical energy is stored in the form of glucose or sucrose, on which everybody depends. So we will start this broad topic in little fragments of videos or series of videos, and we will understand each and every step of photosynthesis very peacefully or politely. So begin with, life on Earth ultimately depends on energy derived from the sun. Photosynthesis is the only process of biological importance that can harvest this energy. In addition, a large fraction of the planet's energy resources results from photosynthetic activity in either recent or ancient times. So fossil fuels are also benefited by this process, and now they converted into fossil fuels. So in this chapter, we will discuss physical principles that underlie photosynthetic energy process, energy storage, and the current understanding of the structure and function of photosynthetic apparatus. The term photosynthesis literally means synthesis using light. Photosynthetic organisms use solar energy to synthesize carbon compounds that cannot be formed without the input of energy. Here is the reaction of photosynthesis. So, next, energy stored in these molecules can be used later to power cellular processes in the plants and can serve as energy source for all forms of life. In this chapter, we will discuss about photosynthetic apparatus, process that begins with the excitation of chlorophyll by light and culminate in the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Photosynthesis in higher plants. Our next topic is photosynthesis in higher plant. The most active photosynthetic tissue is mesophyll, found in leaves. Mesophyll cells have many chloroplasts which contain the special light-absorbing green pigments called chlorophyll. In photosynthesis, the plant uses solar energy to oxidize water, thereby releasing oxygen, and to reduce carbon dioxide, thereby forming large carbon compounds primarily sugar. So, in this complex process, the reduction of CO2 occurs and also thylakoid reactions occurs. So, what is thylakoid reaction? The thylakoid reactions of photosynthesis take place in the special internal membrane of the chloroplast called thylakoid. Thylakoid is nothing other than the modification of plasma membrane in which pigments are settled. So, thylakoid is a special type of or modification of plasma membrane found inside the chloroplast which contains chlorophyll pigments and have capability to absorb solar radiation. Thus, the end product of these thylakoid reactions are high energy compounds ATP and NADPH, which are used for synthesis of sugar in CO2 fixation reaction. These synthetic processes take place in a stroma of the chloroplast. So, the light reaction occurs in thylakoid but dark reaction occurs in stroma of the chloroplast, the aqueous region that surrounds the thylakoid. So, pigments are found in thylakoid, but the chemical reaction which fixes CO2 that happens in liquid form found outside the thylakoid and found all over the chloroplast is called stroma, and inside stroma CO2 fixation occurs. That is called dark reaction. The thylakoid reactions of photosynthesis are the subject of this chapter. So, in the chloroplast, light energy is converted into chemical energy by two different functional units called photosystems. The absorbed light energy is used to power the transfer of electrons through a series of compounds that act as electron donors and electron acceptors. What is electron donors and what are electron acceptors we will discuss in next videos. The majority of electrons ultimately reduces NADP plus to NADPH and oxidizes H2O to O2. Light energy is also used to generate a proton motive force across the thylakoid membrane which is used to synthesize ATP. So, what is the use of light energy? Light energy is also used by thylakoid membranes to generate a proton motive force which helps in synthesis of ATP. So, general concept. The essential concept that provide a foundation for an understanding of photosynthesis. These concepts include nature of light, the properties of pigments and various roles of pigments. So, we will start with light. So, in this chapter, we are going to discuss first a little physics about light energy. So, as we are botanist or biologist, but we have a little understanding of physics and chemistry also to deal with such chapters. So, about light, everybody have already read about light. That light has characteristic of both a particle and a wave. Light is a particle as well as a wave. A triumph of physics in the early 20th century was the realization that light has properties of both particles and waves. A wave is characterized by a wavelength denoted by Greek letter lambda, which is the distance between two successive wave crests. The Frequency represented by nu, which is the number of wave crests that pass an observer in a given time. A simple equation which relates wavelength and frequency and speed is C equal to nu lambda, where C is the speed of light wave, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second per second. The light wave is the transverse electromagnetic wave in which both electric and magnetic fields oscillate perpendicularly to the direction of propagation of the wave and at 90 degree with respect to each other. So here in this diagram we see how two waves are perpendicularly moving in this figure. We can say in the middle a straight line is going, which is the direction of propagation, and two lights, that is electrical light, that is electric field component, and another one is magnetic field component just below to it and perpendicular to each other. Both waves are moving in a direction of propagation. Thus, light is a transverse electromagnetic wave. Here is two words, electro and magnetic, means electrical and magnet. Electromagnetic wave consisting of oscillating electric and magnetic fields that are perpendicular to each other and to the direction of propagation of light. Light moves at a speed of 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. The wavelength is the distance between successive crests of the wave. So, light is also a particle which we call a photon. Each photon contains an amount of energy that is called quantum, in plural called quanta. So, light is a particle which we call photon, and the photon is made up of little packets of energy called quantum. The energy contents of light is not continuous but rather is delivered in these discrete packets, the quanta. The energy of a photon depends on the frequency of light according to the relation known as Planck's law, E equal to h nu, where h is the Planck constant, 6.626 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule per second, and nu is the frequency of the light. Sunlight is like a rain of photons of different frequencies. क्योंकि सनलाइट जो है उसमें डिफरेंट फ्रीक्वेंसीज के लाइट होते हैं, आप नीचे देख सकते हैं डिफरेंट वेवलेंथ्स ऑफ लाइट. ये तो एक लिटिल लिया गया, यहाँ से यहाँ हम देख सकते हैं कि टाइप्स ऑफ रेडिएशन, गामा रेज, एक्स रेज, अल्ट्रावायलेट, इंफ्रारेड, माइक्रोवेव, लॉट्स ऑफ एनर्जी आर मूविंग. So our eyes are sensitive to only a small range of frequencies, the visible light region of the electromagnetic spectrum. Light of slightly higher frequencies is in the ultraviolet region of the spectrum, and light of slightly lower frequency is in the infrared region. The output of sun is visible in figure 7.3 along with the energy density that strikes the surface of earth. So we can see here electromagnetic spectrum, wavelength and frequency are inversely related. Our eyes are sensitive to only a narrow range of wavelength of radiation, the visible region. which extends from about 400 nanometer violet to about 700 nanometer, that is red. Short wavelength, high frequency light has a high energy content. Low wavelength light has low energy content because E is directly proportional to frequency. Energy is directly proportional to the frequency. So, high frequency light has high energy content and low frequency light has low energy content. Next, the absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A indicates approximately the portion of solar output that is utilized by plants. An absorption spectrum displays the amount of light energy taken up or absorbed by the molecules or substance as a function of the wavelength of the light. जो एब्जॉर्प्शन स्पेक्ट्रम है वो दिखा रहा है कि कौन सा एनर्जी जो है वो एब्जॉर्ब किया गया है प्लांट्स के द्वारा. तो जो एब्जॉर्प्शन स्पेक्ट्रम है वो बताता है कि 400 to 800 नैनोमीटर के वेवलेंथ्स के जो लाइट हैं उतना ही प्लांट्स एब्जॉर्ब करते हैं. द एब्जॉर्प्शन स्पेक्ट्रम फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर सब्सटेंस इन ए नॉन एब्जॉर्बिंग सॉल्वेंट कैन बी determined by spectrophotometer. So, spectrophotometry, the technique used to measure the absorption of light by a sample, is more we will discuss in next topic. So, here in a schematic diagram of spectrophotometer, we can see the instrument consists of a light source. The first is light and the next one is here is the light and the next one is this is light source, and after this monochromator prism is monochromator. Mono means single and chromator means wavelength, we can say. So this instrument will only take single type of wavelength of light at one time, and inside it prism is fitted and sample is here. So transmitted light is moving through, photodetector is detecting it, and in the recorder or computer we can see the wavelength of light. So here the output wavelength of the monochromator can be changed by rotation of the prism. So if we rotate the prism, we can see the different wavelength of light in computer or recorder. The output wavelength of the monochromator can be changed by rotation of the prism. The graph of absorbance A versus wavelength lambda is called spectrum. Here we can see the graph of absorbance and lambda at xy plane, and this is called spectrum of the light. So we move next. The topic is the next topic we will discuss in next chapter. We conclude here about this spectrophotometer. The instrument consists of light source, a monochromator which contains a wavelength selection device such as prism, a sample holder, a photodetector and a computer. The output wavelength of monochromator can be changed by rotation of the prism, and the graph of absorbance and lambda is called spectrum. And we have already discussed about here the electromagnetic spectrum, that is different wavelength of different types of rays, but the visible one is only found between ultraviolet and infrared light, which is 400 to 700 spectrum. That is visible spectrum, 400 to 700. So the visible region which extends from 400 nanometer violet to 700 nanometer red. Short wavelength in high frequency light has a high energy content, and we will discussed it already. So in this section we have discussed only this content, and then in next video we will discuss about further topic. So thank you.